Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and today we're going to talk about Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Specifically the UK version, the original, one of the most well-known and popular TV game shows of all time. There's been a bit of a recent brouhaha recently surrounding this show, namely to do with its current host, which of course is Jeremy Clarkson. He took over the reins in 2018 after Chris Tarrant had done it for well over 15 years, but Jeremy Clarkson was the man chosen to essentially relaunch the show, revive it after a few years' rest, and since 2018, admittedly, it's done quite well. Its sporadic schedule, a bit more spaced out. It's done really well comparatively in the TV ratings for a modern day program. It's been updated sufficiently. There's a new lifeline, yet the still element of suspense is still there. Some would say the music's still there. So by and large, I would argue the new Millionaire has been somewhat of a success. But there's been controversy, namely due to Jeremy Clarkson himself. Now, if you're familiar with Jeremy Clarkson, I'm sure you'll know he's basically cultivated his whole personality on, he'll say what he likes, he's not bothered about who he upsets, what he says, and if that's what you want to base your TV personality on, that's completely fair enough. But a few months ago, some would argue he crossed a fundamental line with an article that he wrote for the UK's favourite dish rag, The Sun, that concerned Meghan Markle. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of that article here. I'm sure many of you have either seen it or heard about it, and I'm sure if you're that desperate to read it, you can go and find it. But basically, it didn't paint a nice picture of Meghan Markle. In fact, it comes across as very slightly strangely, almost like obsessive, in my opinion, of the way he regards that he hates her. But, I didn't agree with his comments. A lot of people didn't agree with his comments. And obviously, the next step then was which organisations affiliated with him were going to come out and sort of decry him or cancel, etc. And obviously, with being the host of ITV's most popular quiz show, of arguably its history, there were eyes on them saying, well, you've got to axe Jeremy Clarkson now, you've got to get going. And this was sort of fueled as well by a postponement in filming. I believe there was meant to be some filming in January of celebrity specials, but due to some of the celebrities pulling out over this, that there was that going on. So it was in a bit of limbo, whether the show was going to return at all, never mind with Jeremy. But there is an update. This I'm reading here from Variety. They posted this on the 1st of March. And it says, ITV has issued a statement reiterating that it's contractually committed to a further series of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. There are no further commission commitments beyond that currently, as is typical with such shows where we make commissioning decisions on a series-by-series basis. Therefore, for the avoidance of doubt, neither Who Wants to Be a Millionaire nor Jeremy Clarkson have been cancelled. So that was a statement from ITV themselves. And I totally understand that about contractual commitments. As mentioned, a lot of these shows, particularly these game shows, are done on a, series by series basis, as is mentioned. So if one series does well, they're more inclined to make another one, and so on and so forth. So that makes sense there. So we're at least getting one more season with him. Clarkson himself tweeted, so many kind messages about today's reports, but relax, Lisa and I have not split up. I'm assuming that's his wife. And I have not been sacked as host of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. However, there is more to this. There's some interesting comments from the ITV boss, Carolyn McCall. She told Variety that the season of the current game show, the forthcoming season, which is currently in production, will be Clarkson's final foray as host. The Grand Tour presenter has been at the centre of a media firestorm over his December column in British tabloid The Sun, in the piece where he's basically blasting Meghan Markle, as you can see there. But McCall, the ITV boss, says, we have a contract. We're contracted to this season, so we'll do that. And then we have no future commitments, and we haven't made any decisions about that. So then she got pressed by the interviewer from Variety, basically saying, is the show going to continue, albeit with a new host? And apparently she simply shrugged, and Sony, who are the head company producing the show, declined to comment on this story. So it's really uncertain. I mean, I must admit, the way Variety's worded this, saying that it's going to be his last, you can bend it that way. I mean, all she said is, we're contracted to do this season, we'll do that, we've got no future commitments, we haven't made any statements about that. But then, ITV itself is also saying things are done on a series-by-series basis, so it could be interpreted as Jeremy Clarkson's last season, and it may well be, who knows. But I would also, interpret this as maybe there's scope for the show to continue with a new host, but again, many people said after Chris Tarrant, who's going to fill that role? And Jeremy Clarkson seemed an apt choice. But again, who do you get to follow Jeremy Clarkson, I wonder? So if he does get replaced, that'll be interesting to see. McCall, again, this is the ITV boss herself, was asked about her own feelings on Jeremy Clarkson's article in the tabloid. And she pointed to ITV's decision to come out immediately with a response. The broadcaster's director of television, Kevin Lygo, told journalists shortly after the article was published that it was awful what Clarkson said, and noted that ITV hires him as a consummate broadcaster of the most famous quiz on television. And further explaining that decision to provide a response, McCall said, this is the ITV boss again, "There was no dissent internally. We came out much quicker than anybody else, Amazon included." Nice little jibe at the competition there. "We just came out and said, yes, we do not endorse a single word that he said on that. And there's no place for that on ITV. So we came out very quickly and just said, that wasn't on ITV, but we don't endorse that in any way, and there's no place for that on ITV." So whether or not the ITV bosses or the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire production team had a word with him and probably saying, listen, we know we're contractually obliged to do this, but this is going to be your last one, mate. It's really not too clear at the moment, if you ask me. Going on to Twitter, it's interesting to see what's being posted. I mean, the Millionaire account itself, which recently has decided to go full meme status, is just embracing this. Like, here's this one just making a joke about, people saying it's been cancelled and all that sort of stuff. So what we definitely know for sure is that the next series of Millionaire is definitely going ahead. So, a brand new season, I'm assuming, of regular contestants now that the celebrity one was postponed. Whether that'll be remounted is yet to be seen. But I'm not too sure about this. I'm sort of getting mixed messages from the different sources that we've read. Some of them are more sort of acutely saying the show's donezo. Some are suggesting that it might be a host replacement or something like that. But I'd argue we still don't have like an official concrete answer as of yet. So let me know down in the comments below. Do you think Millionaire is now done for good? They're not going to bother replacing the host? Do you think they will carry on and they're going to replace the host? But who will they replace it with? Because you got to remember, Chris Tarrant was very much the face of UK Millionaire, again, for over a decade. I'd still say even today, a lot of people associate Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with Chris Tarrant, and rightly so. I mean, he was the one who popularised the suspense of the format, or added to it, certainly. And whilst Jeremy, I'm not Jeremy Clarkson's biggest fan by any means, like in terms of the work he's done, but I actually think he did a decent job as host of Millionaire. He's not completely insufferable to watch. He makes the odd comment here and there, but as a host, perfectly satisfactory. Again, I completely don't agree with his comments on Meghan Markle. I really decry what he said there. And if ITV want to axe him for it, I think they've got every right to. They are hiring these people to present their shows, and if they're not happy with how they're getting themselves across outside of that, they have every right to get rid of him. It would be a shame as well if Millionaire bit the dust entirely because of that. I mean, we've already had last year actually, 2022, we had Fastest Finger First, didn't we? Which was the first attempt at a UK-based spin-off of Millionaire anyway. And that, that had its problems. I already did a full review on that when it came out, and I wasn't necessarily over the moon with the format or how it was all laid out and stuff like that. There were elements I liked, but there were also several elements that I just wasn't a fan of, and whether or not that's coming back for a second series is yet to be seen. I don't think any have been commissioned at the minute. I just think, because that was aiming to be like a daytime tea time quiz, wasn't it? And I just think, considering you've already got things like The Chase on ITV, having another show like that just didn't make much sense in my eyes anyway. So I don't think that's going to come back, or at least it's not likely. Whereas Millionaire, that has its staying power. It's a global brand. It is known around the world. There are still several international versions that are going today. And, no matter who you host it with, I think as long as you pick someone who understands, the qualities of this game, the suspenseful elements, all that sort of stuff, then I think the show can continue and thrive as it has done. It's just a shame that all these rumours of, always Millionaire biting the dust are coming during its 25th anniversary year. Which is correct, of course. 2023 does mark 25 years, and I think a lot of fans were hoping for maybe later in the year, around the time of the anniversary, I think many fans were hoping for some kind of special or some kind of limited series, celebrating the 25-year history of the show. But now with all this, whether or not ITV are going to commission another series, we've got to wait and see, but I certainly hope so. But again, that's all for this video for now. Let me know what you think about this news in the comments down below. Again, do you think Jeremy Clarkson should be axed from the show? Do you think a new host should come in? Do you think the show needs to rest? But if you want a 25th anniversary series, what kind of stuff would you want to see featured in that? As always, leave a like if you enjoyed this video. It really does help us out. I've been Martyn from AMTV. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Macra, Hooks Media, Ben Freeman, Ethan Carberry-Holt, The Broken Kitsumanoid, Globe of Reviews, Derek Chambers, Sean Knock, DSTV New Zealand, and Dord Khan, our AMTV staff members.